Hello, everybody, and welcome to another video from the STEM SiSTARS. You are tuned in for another interview. This is Meet the STEM SiSTARS, and this time I will be interviewing my sister, the other STEM SiSTAR, Amie Bakare, and we will just kind of jump right into a little bit of your background, and then I'll go into some questions. So just tell us a little bit about you and your, what you do.
Cool. Well, happy to be here again for another one of these intro videos. So, like she said, my name is Amie Bakare, and I'm currently a data visualization platform SME for a pharmaceutical company. And that pretty much just means that I manage data visualization platforms at an enterprise level. So that could mean helping people get started on those, consulting on best practices for those, as well as like upgrades, maintenance, all the boring stuff as well.
Awesome. And just for everyone watching, can you tell us what a SME is?
Sure. Yes. It's a subject matter expert, which is actually just what they call us on our team. So there's like a person who does like cloud tools, there's a person who does like SaaS. Just each of us is considered a SME.
Awesome. Thank you. And so we'll just jump right into the questions. Could you tell us a little bit about how you chose your major and what college was like in your major?
Sure. So I have a really interesting school background just because my undergraduate major was public financial management, which is not a tech thing at all. I always really wanted to get into finance just because I initially thought, so how we're first generation and our parents are Sierra Leone, I always kind of thought that I wanted to help out in Sierra Leone from a financial perspective. And so that governmental finance background I thought would help me do that. And so that was kind of how I picked that major. But then while I was at IU doing that, I also picked up the minor of information systems. And that was honestly just because I had taken a decent number of the classes for the minor. And I think I only had a few left to get the minor. And then my now husband encouraged me to just do that because he was like, you always have a job. So that was kind of how I chose my minor. And then that's how I chose my major as well. And what I'll say life was like, or how life was like, um, a lot of finance classes. So a lot of like accounting and learning about balance sheets and income statements, and but doing also that for the government as well, like in nonprofit accounting, that's also different. So like all the different types of accounting, that was what school was like. And then in my minor, just a decent number of like coding classes and computer and business type of things. I mean, it was it was nice. It was a good, well-rounded experience, I think.
Awesome. And did you have any internships or, you know, things that you were doing in college to kind of prepare you for jobs?
Yes. So, actually, the internship that I had my senior year, going into my senior year, that's actually the internship that kind of changed, I guess, my life at this point. Um, so I had interned with the federal government, and I was supposed to be working in the acquisitions and program management department. But when I got there, they were transitioning into the strategic information business intelligence department. And so a lot of the assignments that I got, I'll say saddled with, because I think those people thought that these were like tasks that nobody wanted to do. And that's kind of why they gave them to me as an intern. So it was a lot of like searching for data and like sitting down with somebody to now like go through that data that I went through. And I was like, I love this. I I had like my little office, like I would sit in there, they'd tell me what I was pulling that day, and then I would do that, and then I would sit with somebody else and we would, analyze it. And I fell in love with that. And before the end of my internship, my then manager was like, if you like this so much, this is a career that you could have. You could do data analytics. And up until that point, I had no idea that that was even a thing that you could do. So when he mentioned that, I, was like, well, I'm not going to change from public finance at this point. So when I get a master's degree, I will do analytics.
Awesome. That's actually a lead into my next question. I think it's interesting that, one experience or, one internship or one, nudge by a mentor, can kind of redirect where you end up going. So tell us a little bit more about, the decision to go to graduate school and why you chose to go to the school you chose to attend and how you chose the program that you landed in.
Okay. So I pretty much knew in order to get the kind of job that I wanted, doing that data analytics or anything, in order to be seen as a credible source for that kind of work, I would have needed to get a graduate degree because my undergraduate degree was in public finance. And so that was what I was qualified to do. And so I kind of knew off top, like I need to get a graduate degree and I need to study IT or IS or something like that, or computer science, something like that. And so that was kind of how I narrowed it down to that area. But now, how I actually chose my major was that, as I kind of said, I knew I wanted to do analytics. But then at the time when I started my program, I knew that I also wanted to learn the full spectrum of the analytics aspect of things. So not just I sit down and analyze data, but also like I can build a database and like populate that database and I can manage it. And then I can also like pull the data out of that database and then like do the analysis. So I kind of wanted to get all of the skills. And so then that also includes business intelligence. So I pretty much just sat down and Googled analytics and business intelligence programs. And the like one of the best schools that came up was Northwestern University. And that was, I believe at the time, it was like one of maybe like a handful of schools that actually had that program together. And so it was close. So we're Indiana natives. And so that's just in Chicago or like the Chicagoland area. And so that's kind of how I chose that school. And that's how I chose that as a program. Did that answer all of the questions or did you have one
Yeah.
other one?
I think, that transition is so interesting. And I think it's important for folks to know, especially young girls, that, you might not have it all figured out in undergrad and you can definitely pivot or add on by the time you decide to go to graduate school. So just kind of along those lines, there probably, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, were some things maybe you expected from the tech field or the IT field that maybe weren't true, or things that you were told, or things that looked away from the outside looking in because you didn't have the undergrad experience in the field. So I'm curious, what are some common misconceptions about tech overall and IT and computer science and all of these things that people like me who aren't in the tech world, we have no idea. We think IT and computer science, tech, all that stuff is the same stuff. So let us know what you think are some of the most common misconceptions about your field.
Okay, yeah, that's a great question because there are a lot. But I'll just stick to like a few or maybe like a handful. So I think the number one misconception is like the types of jobs. So how before that my manager told me like this is a job that you can have, I had no idea that that was a thing, and I also didn't realize that that was a part of tech because
Okay.
One of the common misconceptions, I think, is that people, when you say tech, people automatically think that you're talking about a programmer. So like the person who, they have the dual screens and like one of the screens is black and there's just like lines of code and they never talk to people. That is what I think people oftentimes think about. Or you think about the person who can actually fix your computer, or the person who, like at your job, they come and they give you a new computer because like it's time
Mhm.
and they provisioned it. They like, maybe they put a new hard drive in there for you and they did all these magical, mystical things that I know nothing about those things. So like that's, I think, the biggest misconception is that when
Okay.
people say tech, they associate them with those two things. And then in addition to jobs, I'll say that maybe your personality type. So because oftentimes you associate tech with those specific roles, that might be seen as maybe somebody who's more quiet, like maybe somebody who doesn't really have like business facing customer skills, um, which is not always the case. And so I kind of was a little bit scared a little bit because I'm like an extroverted introvert. So like I like my space. I love that, but then I'm also I can be an outgoing person. So I knew I don't want to be in a cave all the time, but I do want I have personal skills. So I would like to utilize those in my job. And I didn't realize until I actually had a job that you can have, like, so you can have an outgoing personality and it can actually be very beneficial to you in this space, as well as being able to merge those technical skills with that. That's like gold. Um, and then, okay. So another really, so two more. One that I feel like is very important is what IT actually is. Right? So a lot of times because people associate it with a programmer or the IT professional, they don't actually get that really what you are at the heart of it is like a customer service representative. So like at the heart of it all, IT is mostly there to support the other functions in the company. So like it could
Okay.
be whether you're supporting, from a desktop perspective and then you help with the hardware and that kind of thing, or you're supporting a project that's going on in finance and now you're the person who, helps them with all of their data and does all the analysis. In any situation, you're usually a support function. And so being in
Okay.
a support function means that you actually have to have personal skills. You have to have personal skills in order for you to be successful in that area. Otherwise, it will make it so that people maybe don't want to work with you as much, with which that's obviously not good. So there's that. And then I'll say the last misconception is around salary. So I think a lot of times people, and it's mostly people who are software engineers or people who are programmers. I think a lot of times maybe those people share their starting salary or that kind of thing. And I mean, they get paid really, really well. They get paid really well for what they do, and it's a lot of work. Um, but that's not the case for all the different areas in IT. So
Okay.
everybody, there's like different tiers for like who maybe gets paid the most, and everybody doesn't get paid like a programmer. But I think that when you Google just like IT salaries or something, maybe that's one of the salaries that you're
We're
looking at.
padding the
Yes.
average.
And then that could be like misleading for, I mean, definitely it was kind of misleading for my younger self. So don't even let me go too far. It was definitely misleading for my younger self because um, when I was 1 year into my graduate program, I got hired into a company or like into a nonprofit. And they were like, oh, when you graduate, we'll like reevaluate your salary. And so I definitely thought like, oh, when I graduate, they were going to pay me like
Thought it was gonna
60
double.
like $60,000 more than I was getting. I literally thought it was going to double. Like I was like, for sure, wonderful. And then they were like, no, what?
Yes, yeah.
Like, no. So I would just encourage people to like, especially if you're starting out, to just be more focused on gaining the experience, and not shy away from jobs because you're not getting paid the amount of money that you think you should be getting paid based off of Google. Unless you are a
Very,
programmer, then I guess go for it.
or a programmer for Google.
There
Then
you go. Then go for it.
all out. Awesome. Well, I'm definitely fell victim to some of those things. I think for a lot of us, tech is like a black box. I know for me, it was like when I needed certain data, you went to the, informatics people and then like do whatever you do and then come back with, yeah. So excellent, excellent. And now I want to switch gears here for the last bit. I know that we talked a little bit in my interview about, what it's like in my field as a Black woman, and I know, your experiences in tech, have to be unique, and some of that has to, be centered around race and gender. And so, are there, unique challenges that Black women would face in your field? Um, Firstly, are there, many Black women in your field? And, what are the types of challenges that Black women face going into tech, and then more specifically into the type of tech professional that you are?
So that's a great question. And I'll say, from what I've observed, there's not very many Black women. So I know when I graduated, I don't believe there were any other Black women in my program at the time, like when I graduated, which was like,
I don't think there were either, as I looked for them at the
I
graduation.
tried. I really tried. Like, I tried to be like, oh my gosh, we're all here. And then there weren't any. So, like, I mean, that wasn't as encouraging. But I will say that, I mean, there's Black women in different areas of IT.
Okay.
Um, Not necessarily like my space. So not necessarily like data visualizations or that kind of thing. But a lot of times I think there are Black women. I personally don't see them very often. Um, and I know that when I went to like a Tableau conference, there was like a handful of Black women. And every time I saw a Black person, I was like, hi, hi, can we be friends? Hi.
You got to
So
do that.
it was enough Black people that I like was able to talk to, talk to them. So, so no, there's not very many. And then I'll say unique challenges in the workplace that I've seen is difficulty getting people to believe you, or getting people to hear you. So when you're in IT and then you work very close with the business, a lot of times the business will have these, well, it's most of the time, they have these like grand ideas that they want, or these things that are like, no, that's not a possible thing, or that's possible, but that takes like a really long time. Let's scale it down. And so there's a lot of talks that have to go on. And what I found is that it is easier for my white counterparts, either male or female, when they make a suggestion or tell somebody something, like it's easier for people to believe them, maybe, than if I tell them. Even though in most cases, I am the only person who actually has a graduate degree in this field. So I have personally, that is a struggle that I've personally dealt with. Um, but I think over time I've learned how to manage that, or how to kind of like work around that. And it does require you to be a little bit more forceful, which is not naturally the kind of person that I am in the workplace. Um, Yes, right. See, in the workplace. So I was under the impression before, and I have definitely worked on this. And I would advise any young person to also not think this way. I used to think that it was about like, you know, as long as I'm qualified, like as long as I'm qualified, or like as long as like, you know, I've done the work, like obviously like I know what I'm talking about. So like why wouldn't you just believe me? Like almost like my work should tell you how great. Yeah, like I get it.
We'll do a whole separate video on that. Just
Separate video that we definitely should talk about because it's a problem. And so over time, I've had to kind of get away from that and be more like assertive and actually say, hey guys, I went to school for this. I promise we shouldn't display it like this, but that's not my natural personality. So that I think is a thing that a lot of Black women work on being in this space, is being more vocal and being more forceful about your accomplishments or your training or just your background that makes you qualified to be there, which definitely is not something that I think that our white counterparts do at all.
and to that point, you're probably actually trying to not be forceful to kind of downplay the whole aggressive Black woman like stereotype where you're aggressive or
Uh-huh.
so it's like you're trying not to be that. And then as soon as you're not being that, you know, you're kind of being overlooked and your accomplishments are being downplayed. So it's probably a delicate balance there. I could see that being an issue.
Definitely an issue. But at this point, since I've become more comfortable with it, I've definitely been the angry Black woman, or like the I am the aggressor at work. Like I've been that. But I think before it used to kind of bother me. It used to kind of make me like, well, it used to actually make me want to be more aggressive. But now, but now I think that I'm coming into my own in the workplace. So now I think I've found the balance. And now I guess if you think I'm an angry Black woman, then like, so be it. We're going to get this work done and we're going to get this work done right. So, like, if I'm angry, let it be that. Whatever it is, please don't put 1.7 billion rows of data in your report. Please and thank you. Whatever it is. And that's on that.
Well, that is, I mean, I think that that resonates with, you know, Black women in a lot of different settings, you know, not just in tech, not even just in STEM, but, you know, in a lot of different fields, you know, finding that balance of showing up as yourself and, you know, being a humble person if you are just naturally a humble person and, you know, actually uh, presenting as the accomplished, knowledgeable SME subject matter expert that you are. So I really think that, you know, this is really, your experiences have been really, would be really helpful for a young person starting off in the field and maybe even peers that are going through some of the same stuff. So thank you so much for answering my questions today. Um,
Um,
definitely look forward to more discussions like this. You know, in the future, they won't be us just interviewing each other. We'll actually be having conversations. But just wanted you all to, you know, get to know us. I also learn about my sister every time I talk to her about what she does. We do very different
very,
things.
very, very different things.
Very, very different things. And so it is always interesting to have these chats. So, yeah, before we go, follow us on Instagram at STEM SiSTARS. If you enjoyed this video, and honestly, if you've watched it all the way till now, go ahead and hit like because you've been here the whole time. So go ahead and hit like. And, you know, if you really just, then hit subscribe and then you'll know when we post a new video. So if you have any questions you'd like either us to answer in the future, don't ask me any tech questions. I don't know the answers to those, but direct those.
And don't ask me science questions. Last science class I took, I was like 15 or 16. So,
And me, I never took a tech class, eh? Not
like,
one. Not even one.
and I did very bad in the class, to be honest. Let's be real here.
But I was on Black Planet back in the day using HTML to make the little like glitter on my page, and like, you know, you would make your little guest book, like, thanks for stopping by. So like,
What?
shout out to my elder millennials. So that's it. That's the extent of my knowledge, my HTML from personalizing my Black Planet page. Also adding music to my MySpace page. That's it. So
Okay. Well, own it. If that's your
okay,
experience, that's your experience.
experience. So anyway, stay tuned for more interviews and more informative videos from us. Follow us on Instagram, and also hit us with a like, comment, and a subscription if you like. See you next time.
Thanks, guys. Bye.